Directed energy weapons. The invisible threat, the concept of a weapon that can cause a heart attack without leaving a trace, has long fascinated both scientists and conspiracy theorists alike. At the heart of many of these discussions is the potential of directed energy weapons devices that emit focused energy to damage or incapacitate targets. Unlike traditional firearms or explosives, DEWs operate using beams of electromagnetic energy, including microwaves, radio frequency waves, lasers, and particle beams. These weapons have been actively researched and developed by various military powers, particularly the United States, Russia, and China, for decades. While many of these weapons are built to destroy electronics or serve as non-lethal crowd control tools, a darker and more controversial theory proposes that certain types of DEWs could be used to target biological systems, especially the human heart. Biologically, the human body is a delicate balance of electrical signals, particularly the heart, which beats thanks to synchronized electrical impulses from specialized cells. Disruption of this rhythm, through external electromagnetic interference, could theoretically lead to arrhythmias, cardiac arrest, or sudden heart failure. If a DEW were powerful and precise enough to interfere with these bioelectrical processes, it could potentially induce a heart attack in a targeted individual. This is not just idle speculation. Numerous military and intelligence programs have conducted classified and declassified experiments into the bioeffects of microwaves and electromagnetic radiation. For instance, the infamous Moscow signal incident in the 1950s and 60s, where Soviet forces allegedly directed microwave beams at the U.S. Embassy in Moscow, prompted the CIA and Department of Defense to launch Project Pandora, an extensive research operation to study the neurological and biological impact of microwave exposure. Though publicly dismissed as inconclusive, these experiments are considered by many to be the foundation for further secret research into weaponizing directed energy against human targets. Similarly, in recent years, mysterious health incidents involving U.S. diplomats, often referred to as Havana syndrome, have reignited discussions about microwave or radio frequency weapons being used covertly to harm individuals. Victims report dizziness, memory loss, and pressure in the head, symptoms that align disturbingly with electromagnetic exposure. Moreover, existing technologies like the active denial system, ADS, which uses millimeter waves to create a burning sensation on the skin for crowd dispersal, demonstrate that non-lethal DEWs already exist. The question that lingers is whether versions of these systems could be secretly adapted to do more, specifically to kill without evidence. If a directed energy beam could be calibrated to penetrate the chest cavity and interfere with the heart's pacemaking cells or vagus nerve, theoretically, it might trigger a cardiac event while leaving behind no physical signs of assault, making it an ideal tool for covert assassination. Despite the tantalizing potential, no DEW has been publicly acknowledged to cause targeted heart attacks. Most research remains classified, and what is declassified is often vague or downplayed. Critics argue that without concrete scientific validation, these ideas remain in the realm of conspiracy theory. Nonetheless, in an age where technological warfare is evolving rapidly, the possibility of a silent, invisible killer, a beam of energy that stops a heart from meters away, continues to capture both fear and fascination. The CIA heart attack, gun Cold War shadows, and silent assassinations among the most chilling and mysterious stories to emerge from the Cold War is that of the CIA's heart attack gun, a weapon allegedly capable of inducing a fatal cardiac arrest without leaving any trace. This sinister device came to public attention during the 1975 Church Committee hearings, a groundbreaking U.S. Senate investigation into the illegal activities of American intelligence agencies. Named after Senator Frank Church, the committee was tasked with uncovering the truth behind years of covert operations, assassinations, and surveillance carried out under the veil of national security. What the committee discovered stunned the public and raised questions that still linger today. During one particular session, a former CIA official revealed the existence of an experimental weapon developed by the agency, a small, silent pistol, capable of firing a tiny frozen dart laced with lethal toxins. The dart, no larger than the head of a pin, could pierce clothing and skin without being felt, melting upon entry into the body. Inside it was a deadly concoction, reportedly a mixture of shellfish toxin or other fast-acting biochemicals, designed to induce a massive heart attack in the victim within moments. Perhaps most disturbingly, the dart and its poison would dissolve in the bloodstream, leaving no trace of foul play during an autopsy. The death would appear natural, with the victim simply collapsing from natural causes. The CIA allegedly designed this weapon not for battlefields, but for covert assassinations, silencing targets who posed a threat to U.S. interests or geopolitical stability. These might have included foreign leaders, defectors, or even suspected double agents. Its appeal lay in the ability to kill discreetly, without bullets, bombs, or broken bones, just a quiet death attributed to heart failure. No fingerprints, no sound, no mess, just a lifeless body and a mystery that doctors couldn't solve. The very idea shocked the senators present at the hearing and horrified the American public. The revelation became one of the most infamous moments of the Church Committee. A crude prototype of the gun was even presented before Congress. It resembled a pistol with a large barrel and a pressurized gas mechanism used to propel the dart. Though the CIA never officially admitted to using the weapon in the field, the fact that such a device had been engineered was a damning indictment of the agency's secretive practices during the Cold War. While the official line was that this weapon was never deployed, numerous researchers, whistleblowers, and conspiracy theorists have connected it to suspicious deaths throughout history, particularly of political figures, dissidents, and whistleblowers who suddenly died of unexpected heart attacks. Some even allege that such weapons were later refined and adapted by other intelligence agencies, including those of the Soviet Union and Israel. The KGB, known for its equally dark innovations in the art of assassination, had its own array of poisons and silent killers, and the competition between global intelligence services during the Cold War created a secret arms race, not of missiles, but of methods to kill invisibly. From a medical standpoint, causing a heart attack through injection is entirely plausible. Certain toxins like ricin, saxitoxin, or digitalis can induce rapid cardiac arrest by disrupting the electrical impulses that regulate heartbeat. These substances can be derived from plants, animals, or synthesized in labs and, in small quantities, can be deadly while being nearly undetectable by standard toxicological screenings, especially in the 1960s and 70s, when forensic science was still limited. What's particularly unsettling is that the CIA's heart attack gun wasn't fiction, it was a confirmed reality, at least in prototype form. Its development underscores the darker side of intelligence work during the Cold War, a world where ethics often bowed to expedience, where government agencies flirted with methods that would be considered murder in any other context. It was a time when the ends were seen to justify the means, and the ability to kill undetected was regarded as a strategic advantage. In the decades since the Church Committee hearings, the specter of the heart attack gun has persisted in popular culture and conspiracy lore. It is mentioned in documentaries, books, and podcasts as an example of how far intelligence agencies might go to protect their interests. Whether the weapon was ever truly used in the field remains one of the enduring mysteries of the Cold War, but its very existence forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about the secret wars fought behind the headlines, where silence, subtlety, and secrecy were the ultimate weapons. Electronic warfare, targeting the human body. Through the ether, the increasingly invisible and technological domain of modern warfare, electronic warfare stands as one of the most insidious and least understood battlefields. Traditionally, EW refers to the use of electromagnetic energy to detect, deceive, disrupt, or disable an enemy's communication and control systems. It is a field that includes radar jamming, signal interception, and GPS spoofing. However, as technologies have evolved and understanding of bioelectromagnetics has deepened, a disturbing question has emerged within speculative circles. Could electronic warfare be weaponized not just against machines, but against the human body, particularly the human heart? To understand this possibility, one must first recognize that the human body is, in essence, an organic electrical system. Our hearts beat because of electrical impulses generated and regulated by specialized cells in the sinoatrial SA node, a kind of biological pacemaker. The brain, similarly, operates through a vast network of electrical signaling. If an external force could interfere with or hijack those signals, the consequences could be catastrophic. This is the core fear surrounding bio-targeted electronic warfare, that focused energy could induce disorientation, neurological damage, and potentially even fatal cardiac arrhythmias or heart attacks. Although there is no officially declassified weapon known to deliberately cause heart failure via electronic means, military research documents, patent filings, and whistleblower testimonies have painted a murky and troubling picture. Microwave pulses, electromagnetic radiation, ultra-low frequency, ULF waves, and pulsed radio frequency energy are all areas of documented experimentation in defense circles. The theory holds that specific frequencies and pulse rates can disrupt cellular processes or interfere with the ion channels of cardiac muscle, leading to irregular heart rhythms, fibrillation, and death. The Soviet Union, during the Cold War, invested heavily in the field of psychotronic warfare, which included research into influencing human physiology through electromagnetic fields. Similarly, U.S. defense agencies have conducted numerous studies into the non-thermal effects of RF, radio frequency energy. Unlike thermal effects, which cause heating and are relatively well understood, non-thermal effects are more subtle and controversial, yet potentially more dangerous. Some animal studies from the 1970s and 80s suggested that exposure to low-level pulsed microwave radiation could cause heartbeat irregularities, immune suppression, and behavioral changes. In recent years, the U.S. military has acknowledged that high-powered microwave systems can disable drones and missiles by overloading their circuitry. The leap from machinery to biology may seem large, but consider this. Human nerves and muscles, including the heart, operate using ionic conduction, not entirely unlike electrical systems in machines. Thus, the idea of disrupting those systems from a distance is not so far-fetched in theory. Cases like Havana syndrome, where U.S. diplomats and intelligence officers reported unexplained neurological symptoms after suspected exposure to some kind of directed energy, have reignited public concern. Victims describe symptoms including dizziness, memory loss, nausea, hearing loss, and in some cases lasting neurological and cardiovascular effects. While the U.S. government has yet to formally confirm the existence of a weapon behind these incidents, some intelligence insiders have strongly hinted at pulsed microwave attacks as a likely cause. But what if an adversary wanted to go further, not just disable or disorient, but kill? Hypothetically, an electromagnetic pulse, EMP, tuned to a frequency that matches or disrupts the cardiac rhythm, could cause ventricular fibrillation, a fatal heart condition if not treated immediately. Even more chilling is the possibility of targeted waveform delivery, in which an energy beam is focused on a specific individual, using radar or biometric tracking, to deliver a fatal jolt. Though there is no confirmed technology today that allows for such precise, body-targeted electromagnetic attacks, the rapid integration of AI, machine learning, and biosurveillance systems suggests it could be on the horizon. Another area of concern is electromagnetic field, EMF weaponization. While long-term exposure to EMFs from everyday devices like phones and Wi-Fi routers is largely considered safe by mainstream science, there remain studies that hint at potential bioeffects, especially when it comes to sleep, stress hormones, and cardiovascular function. Military-grade EMF emitters operating at high power and unique modulation schemes could, in theory, disrupt the autonomic nervous system, throwing off the balance between the sympathetic and parasympathetic responses and pushing vulnerable individuals toward fatal cardiovascular collapse. Ethically, this form of warfare is the most dangerous, precisely because it is so deniable. A heart attack is one of the most common causes of death worldwide. If a 60-year-old politician collapses on stage, or a journalist with a history of stress is found dead in his apartment, how many would question whether the heart attack was artificially induced? There are no bullet holes, no toxins, no blood, just silence and a heart that stopped beating. The idea that our bodies could become the battlefield, not through guns or knives, but through waves in the air, is deeply unsettling. It reflects the transformation of war in the 21st century. Away from trenches and into the unseen dimensions of cyberspace and the electromagnetic spectrum. While electronic warfare remains, publicly at least, focused on machines, its theoretical extension into the human biological domain has placed it at the front line of dark possibilities. As defense contractors race to harness next-generation weaponry, and governments expand their toolkits for asymmetric warfare, we may be only a few steps away from a world in which electromagnetic death becomes as real, and as deniable, as any cold steel bullet. Psychological and stress-induced heart attacks, weaponizing fear in the mind. Not all weapons kill through bullets, toxins, or energy beams. Some of the most devastating tools of silent warfare strike not the body directly, but the mind. Psychological warfare has long been recognized as a potent strategy in both military and intelligence operations. Its goal: to manipulate thought, induce panic, and break the human spirit. But what if psychological operations, PSYOPs, could go even further? To kill, using fear, stress, and anxiety as invisible daggers. Increasing evidence and declassified documents suggest that under extreme and targeted psychological duress, the human heart can fail, turning stress itself into a lethal weapon. Medical science has long confirmed that severe emotional stress can cause sudden cardiac death. This phenomenon, often referred to as broken heart syndrome or Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, mimics a heart attack. First recognized in Japan in the 1990s, Takotsubo syndrome occurs when overwhelming emotional or psychological shock, such as the sudden loss of a loved one, intense fear, humiliation, or betrayal, leads to a weakening of the heart's left ventricle. In some cases, this stress-induced cardiomyopathy resolves over time, but in others, particularly when pre-existing heart issues are present, it can be fatal. But now consider this. What if induced psychological trauma could be used intentionally as a covert means of assassination? Intelligence agencies have long studied how to exploit human psychology for control and destruction. The CIA's infamous MK-Ultra program, active from the 1950s through the 1970s, was designed to test the limits of psychological manipulation through drugs, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, and psychological stress. Victims, many unknowingly enrolled, were subjected to extreme mental torture, often pushed to the edge of psychosis. Though many documents remain classified or destroyed, surviving records reveal a grim truth. The human mind was being tested for breakdown points and possible death under stress. Under intense psychological assault, the body activates the fight-or-flight response, flooding the bloodstream with stress hormones like adrenaline, cortisol, and norepinephrine. While this mechanism evolved to help humans survive threats, it can also wreak havoc on the cardiovascular system. Prolonged exposure to these chemicals can raise blood pressure, constrict arteries, and force the heart into dangerous rhythms. In particularly susceptible individuals, such as the elderly or those with hypertension, this could tip the body into cardiac arrest. This is not theoretical. Throughout history, there are accounts of individuals, particularly prisoners, whistleblowers, or political dissidents, dying of sudden heart attacks under suspicious circumstances following intense interrogation, threats, or mental manipulation. In some countries under authoritarian rule, detainees have died during interviews with no marks on their bodies, leading many to speculate whether extreme psychological tactics were used not just to extract information, but to silence permanently. Modern PSYOPs may be even more subtle and sinister. Techniques like isolation, sleep deprivation, gaslighting, and persistent surveillance can slowly unhinge the mind. Some individuals have reported being targeted with no-touch torture, a strategy that allegedly uses a mix of noise, light, disinformation, and cyber harassment to create mental collapse. Victims describe being pushed to the brink of insanity, experiencing insomnia, paranoia, and panic attacks. In extreme cases, these mental breakdowns can manifest physically, especially in the form of heart palpitations, arrhythmias, and sudden collapse. In a battlefield context, even military-grade sonic and visual stimuli have been tested to disorient or terrify enemies. Blasting victims with infrasound, very low-frequency sound waves, for example, can induce nausea, anxiety, and a sensation of dread. Some researchers speculate that prolonged exposure could stress the cardiovascular system to lethal levels, though scientific data remains limited and most research is tightly controlled or classified. What makes psychological death so terrifying is that it leaves no evidence, no bullet, no poison, no visible trauma. The obituary will read, "Heart attack." The autopsy may show enlarged vessels, perhaps some calcification, and irregularities typical of natural heart disease. But the trigger? It may have been a whisper, a threat, a week of sleepless nights, or the unbearable weight of fear. History has shown that minds can be broken just as easily as bones. In wars and regimes throughout time, Nazi Germany, Stalinist Russia, military dictatorships in Latin America, detainees have died mysteriously in their cells, collapsed in courts, or succumbed suddenly during interrogations. Some were known to be in good health. Some had never even been touched, yet they died. In today's digital age, cyber-psychological operations represent an even newer frontier. Imagine a dissident targeted by an invisible campaign, disinformation planted online, private photos leaked, voices manipulated, friends turned distant. Add in strange knocks at the door, flickering lights, phantom sounds, or even AI-generated hallucinations. The stress becomes overwhelming. Their heart, already racing, falters. They die alone, and the death certificate lists myocardial infarction. But the weapon was invisible, psychological, and precise. In conclusion, psychological and stress-induced heart attacks may not require futuristic technology. They exploit what is already inside us, our fragility, our fears, our emotions. That these natural responses can be weaponized is perhaps the most chilling revelation of all, because it suggests that even our own minds can become the hand that pulls the trigger. Nanotechnology and the future of covert assassination. Death by the invisible as science advances deeper into the microscopic realm, a new frontier of warfare emerges. One that doesn't require guns, explosives, or even physical presence. In this realm, the deadliest agents of death may be invisible to the naked eye, operating at the nanoscale. Welcome to the unsettling world of nanotechnology-based assassination, a theoretical but increasingly plausible field where engineered particles and molecular machines may one day deliver silent, targeted, and undetectable death. Nanotechnology, by definition, refers to the manipulation of matter on an atomic or molecular scale, usually within 1 to 100 nanometers. For comparison, a red blood cell is about 7,000 nanometers in diameter. The goal of nanotech in medicine has long been to treat disease, especially cancer, by delivering drugs directly to affected cells without harming surrounding tissue. But, in the darker corridors of scientific exploration, that same precision could be inverted, not to heal, but to kill. Imagine this scenario. A tiny, engineered nanoparticle introduced into a person's body through a drink, an injection, or even inhalation, designed to lie dormant until activated by a signal, a temperature, a biological marker, or a frequency. Once triggered, it could release a powerful toxin, cause a sudden clot, or target the electrical system of the heart, inducing a sudden and fatal arrhythmia. The death would appear natural, the weapon completely undetectable, and the assassin thousands of miles away. The potential of nanotechnology in this space lies in its stealth and specificity. Unlike traditional poisons, which are often broad in their effect and detectable in autopsies, smart nanoparticles can be engineered to affect only specific organs or cells, or to degrade completely after performing their function, leaving behind no trace. Some experimental particles are even coated with biocompatible materials like lipids or proteins, making them virtually indistinguishable from natural cellular structures. In other words, the perfect weapon for plausible deniability. Though much of the public conversation about nanotech remains focused on medical miracles and industrial innovation, the military and intelligence implications have not gone unnoticed by world powers. In 2006, the U.S. Department of Defense published a strategic report predicting that by 2025, nano-enabled biological weapons could be used to incapacitate or kill with unprecedented precision. Meanwhile, researchers in countries like China, Russia, and Israel have also invested heavily in nanobio interfaces, some of which may have dual-use applications. Therapeutic on one hand, potentially lethal on the other. A particularly ominous development is the creation of smart dust, tiny microelectromechanical sensors, MMs, that can float in the air, track physiological data, or interact with the human body at the cellular level. In theory, a modified version could be designed to penetrate mucous membranes and deliver cardiotoxic agents, or interfere with ion channels in cardiac muscle, leading to fatal arrhythmias. Once again, these particles could be programmed to self-destruct, after fulfilling their mission, erasing all evidence of foul play. While these concepts may sound like science fiction, the technological foundation already exists. Medical researchers have already created nanobots capable of navigating the bloodstream, targeting tumors, and delivering drugs to individual cells. Toxicologists have warned that some nanoparticles, such as silver, titanium dioxide, or carbon, nanotubes can cause inflammation, clotting, and oxidative stress when they interact with cardiovascular tissues. In large enough concentrations, or if deliberately engineered, they could trigger heart failure or stroke. But beyond the physical mechanisms, the real horror lies in the implications for espionage, warfare, and power. Nanotech offers the possibility of precision assassinations without confrontation, with no gunshots, no poison vials, no witnesses. Victims could be targeted based on DNA, stress levels, or biometric data collected from social media or surveillance. Even more disturbingly, activation could be remote. A signal from a cell tower, a pulsed frequency from a drone, or even a routine medical scan. There have already been mysterious deaths of scientists, journalists, and political figures where traditional causes were ruled out, but odd symptoms like sudden organ failure, inexplicable internal bleeding, or collapsed cardiovascular systems remained unexplained. While we cannot conclusively link these cases to nanotechnology, their strangeness hints at methods beyond conventional means. From an ethical standpoint, nanotech as a weapon represents a terrifying moral void. Because it operates without direct physical aggression, it falls into a legal gray area. There is currently no international treaty specifically banning nanotechnology-based assassination methods. Moreover, the science is so complex and cutting-edge that few law enforcement or forensic teams would even know how to detect a nanotech-based attack, let alone trace it to its source. As the global arms race extends into biotechnology, AI, and molecular science, we must ask ourselves, are we prepared for a world where death can be delivered through a handshake, a breath, a touch of air? Because if such a weapon is ever used, and some argue it already has been, it will not be detected by metal detectors or bomb-sniffing dogs. It will not leave residue or fingerprints. It will leave only a corpse, a closed casket, and a puzzled corner scribbling the word heart attack on a death certificate, never knowing that death itself was designed at the nanoscale.